Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, D&D5E. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgier kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. What you do for us is amazing, especially helping to bring us out new content. And a big thank you to our good friends over at Critical Failures. Check us out every Wednesday night, part of a live stream that we're doing Icewind Dale. We just finished our 16th session, so definitely check it out if you're interested in watching a game being streamed. With all that out of the way, we're going to talk about the Wizard of Conjuration. The School of Conjuration Wizard comes to us from the Player's Handbook. This was popularized by Liam O'Brien in Campaign 2 of Critical Role and his wizard character Caleb. It is a unique wizard in the sense that its final ability actually got better over time as newer spells had been released, which is a very cool concept. But you're kind of built around this idea of creating things, and that's kind of what Conjuration is. You're kind of just making things almost appear out of thin air. So in a very creative kind of a mindset, this sequence of spells and these abilities kind of really favor that. So if you're a very creative player, you probably get a little bit more mileage out of this subclass than some of the other players will. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of actual game knowledge of kind of how the world works in D&D and how the rules kind of exist to kind of really work together with that. But this being a Conjuration subclass, you definitely need to be on the same page with your DM in order to work some of these things out and make them feel effective. Because like illusions, they can be really powerful if they're left to kind of just your own devices, and it kind of has to fit in a way that the DM knows well enough how to implement some of these things. At second level, you gain Conjuration Savant. This is very similar to the other abilities where it just reduces the gold and time spent to inscribe spells into your spellbook that are Conjuration. This is just kind of to help you along the way. A lot of the times, I've more often than not have not seen a lot of DMs dropping as many spell scrolls as usual, and this is kind of something that's very indicative of the wizard. You kind of need those in circulation to help kind of really make use of one of the key components of being a wizard, and that is your spellbook. But this helps you again to fuel that kind of theme behind your spell school of choice, kind of like your profession, kind of like what you're best suited for. You will gain another ability called Minor Conjuration. You can use your action to conjure up an inanimate object in your hand or on the ground in an unoccupied space that you can see within 10 feet of you. This object can be no larger than 3 feet on a side and weigh no more than 10 pounds, and its form must be that of a non-magical object that you have seen. The object is visibly magical, radiating dim light out to 5 feet. The object disappears after 1 hour when you use this feature again, or if it takes or deals any damage. So it is an interesting circumstance because you can conjure up anything and it's very visibly magical, and it just can't weigh more than 10 pounds or be larger than 3 feet. So depending on what you need to do, you can make use of this. This is one of those things where the more creative you are, the better the use you get out of it. You can create maybe a gem that's large and try and pawn it off and sell it for some quick gold, and then have it just evaporate later, and being kind of like a charlatan in that kind of a fashion. There are a few circumstances where maybe you need an item that fits a specific spot or something. So you were doing a quest and you missed this gem that you needed to fit into this cutout in order to open a door. This might constitute for that. This might be able to replace that and still cause that door to unlock, or at least some sort of variation of what that might be. Again, being a wizard and being a full spellcaster, and particularly a wizard, your damage and your viability in combat comes from your spell selection, not necessarily a subclass. There aren't a lot of subclasses that give you a lot of big damaging options. A lot of them tend to fit some sort of theme. And in the Conjuration Wizard, you're all about creating magical items or or things that are tangible. So you really get that kind of like playful kind of usefulness out of minor conjuration, which in theory you should be probably practicing regularly to kind of get a good idea. Being creative with this subclass is really what takes it to a very new creative level and gives you the ability to do all these incredible things. But if you're not a super creative player, it might be difficult for you. That's going to be your biggest thing to overcome. At 6th level, you gain benign transportation. You can use your action to teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see. Alternatively, you can choose a space within range that is occupied by a small or medium creature. If that creature is willing, you both teleport, swapping places. You can use this feature once. You can't use it again until you finish a long rest, or you cast a conjuration spell of 1st level or higher. So this is a very interesting circumstance. Swapping places with someone might be a very creative way to get out of certain circumstances of danger. And being able to refuel this by casting conjuration spells could be something that you're pretty regularly entitled to do. Teleportation is a funny kind of a concept because you will get it as a spell later on. Well, you would have had it already at this point because it would have been 2nd level that you get, 3rd level where you get Misty Step. So you do have teleportation available to you. And conjuration spells are real interesting. Again, Find Familiar is one of them, which is if you're a wizard, that's going to be something that you're going to kind of use regularly. Ice Knife is one, which is actually one of my favorite low-level spells. So is Cloud of Daggers, Dust Devil, Flaming Sphere, Web, and then a bunch of other cool spells that involve like higher summonings and things like that you'll get later. So you do have a couple of spells that really would fit into a lot of different sequences that you could do as a sequence. Especially considering some of these are bonus actions that you can use. So you do have options there. Again, familiarizing yourself with your school is kind of one of the better things about this. At 10th level, you get Focus Conjuration. While you're concentrating on a conjuration spell, your concentration can't be broken as a result of taking damage. One of the best things about conjuration is you have a lot of good concentration spells. You have almost all the summon spells, which is awesome. So Shadow Spawn, Lesser Demons, the ones that came out in Tasha's, Summon Fae, and even some of the higher ones that were already in the game, like Summon Elemental, Summon Great Demon, Infernal Conjuration. Like, all those spells put a very powerful character on your side of the board, which is really, really good. And the ability to maintain concentration without having to worry about it being broken by damage is a very big thing, because now the enemy has to cast specific spells in order to break your concentration on these spells. That's very hard for them to do. That's something that's going to take out action on their turn, meaning they're not going to hurt any of your party members, which that trade-off is beneficial to you, period. So this really comes on stronger, and this is one of the reasons why this subclass got better over time, because of the release of all these great conjuration spells that came forward. And that really makes a very, very big difference in that regard, because Summon Fiend, or even some of these like newer spells, they all have these specialized abilities, some of them, and you now have to not worry about taking damage in regards to that. Your real worry is just surviving that damage, because you can have that going and you can still use your regular actions to drop your fireballs or whatever it is and keep that heavy pressure of damage per round going. At 10th level, this comes on pretty hard. And at 14th level, your final ability is Durable Summons. Any creature that you summon or create with a conjuration spell has 30 temporary hit points. Any creature. Understand that it doesn't say humanoid, construct, undead, it says creature. Creatures kind of encompass all of that. So you're dropping a big 30 temporary hit points on top of whatever your summon you already have. You are going to be pumping out summons like crazy. It's gonna kind of feel like a more refined kind of a necromancer, where a necromancer has like legions of stuff it can have. You'll have like one, but that one will be beefy, and you'll be able to take hits while that thing is going all out every turn. It really kind of gives you this cool kind of sense of like almost like a hunter and a pet also, where you can really make your conjured entity like your special skill. Like that's who your character is. When combat happens, that's your number one skill. You drop that thing, whatever it is, and it reflects that kind of characteristic to you. And the cool thing about it is because there are so many great summon spells, you can really fit that theme behind it. If you're a tiefling, you grab a fiend or something like that and really share that kind of like almost Mephistopheles intellect, where you can summon and conjure these entities to fight for you under your command, and you really get to portray that through your magic. If you're a fey entity, summon fey. Like if you're really just kind of like a wizard, like an arcane wizard, what you'll do is you'll start making constructs. You'll start summoning elementals and things like that, because it'll fit as kind of like that traditional wizard that has like iron golems or whatever it is patrolling their tower. You can get that, and a lot of these levels, especially the Tasha's one, as you cast them at higher levels, they do get stronger, and they do up their hit points and their armor class and the amount of attacks that they can do. So they kind of have a great growth rate throughout the campaign. So you get a lot of that, and it feels good. It feels like that's an extension of who you are. And the fact that you don't have to worry about concentration, and the fact that they're beefier than they would be, that's a very, very, very strong use of a talent that you kind of don't expect going into the subclass. The Conjuration Wizard gives you this cool kind of concept where you're not even focused on dead. You're kind of just creating inanimate things to almost replace things in your life. Like you're kind of like this weird kind of robotics engineer, where you're just building these things to do jobs for you or whatever it is. It gives you this concept where creation of even things that are simple and mundane is your second nature. Like it would seem unusual to me for a conjuration wizard to not do something like just make like currency and just use that to kind of just buy off all their stuff and never actually need it, because they can just make this and kind of just be traveling consistently, because that kind of builds a bad rap. But when you get higher level in wizard, if you get to the top tier of play, you can make your own tower, and you can just by staying in the same place, and you have, you know, Mordecai's magnificent mansion where it's like stocked with food every day, so you don't ever have to worry about living anywhere. You always have all the amenities you ever need or feel like you want. So you kind of become this entity that gets a little pulled away from reality, where you're this hermit just kind of locked away working with your constructs, or they're trying to find ways to create something that's tangible, that lasts forever. It's a cool concept. Anything that can detach you from the human condition, I really like, because it can very change your understanding. Like you're more closely to a necromancer at higher levels because you raise things to fight for you, whether they're real or whether they're not. And that's something that the Conjuration Wizard gets to toy with, because you're not evil, because you're not using all these dark magics, but you are playing with a void of life, which is something that can really affect the mental like mindset of who a character is. That being said and done, we're going to bring this video to a close. Definitely try out the Conjuration Wizard. Again, Wizards is one of those things where it doesn't matter what subclass you pick as much as your spell selection. You can be a high damage per round dealing character no matter what subclass, because again, it comes from your spell usage. The Conjuration Wizard gives you an opportunity to be that mad scientist where you can just create, kind of manipulate. Like you can make an automaton and use that to kind of fuel your creative pursuits. It's an interesting concept, and again, when you take yourself away from needing that human connection, humanity kind of drifts. So it's a very great way to be a kind of like a sociopath kind of a wizard. That being said, if you've made it this far into the video, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter and helping us bring out content and do all the great stuff that we love to do. If you're interested in supporting us in that way, the link is in the description, as well as the link to our good friends at Critical Failures, where we're part of a live stream that's every Wednesday. Check us out, and thank you for giving a Spooky Kid a chance.